Hi, I'm Reb Risty with Revolutionize Your Marketing, Your Business, Your Life. And I'm here today with Michael Trezza with Giant Leaps. And we're going to talk about what he's doing in education and helping families, children, parents in his world. So, Michael, I'll hand over to you really quickly for my audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks so much, Reb. I appreciate being here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that's a big question, who I am and what I do. I've been a technology entrepreneur for the last 22 or 23 years or so. I've run and built software companies, and I still run and operate a company called Lithium, a software company, and what we do is help businesses scale with AI and software solutions. That's an exciting and interesting space right now. And over the last couple of years, I started building a company called Giant Leaps. And I mean, the idea behind that is the world is really changing faster than it ever has before. And I don't believe, and a lot of people don't believe that education is keeping up and closing that gap and creating the leaders that this world needs. So what we've developed and what we do is really try to prepare kids to be leaders in a highly dynamic world. If there's anything that's very certain right now is that the world is going to look very different in the next 5 or 10 years, primarily because of the disruptive technologies that are emerging right now, and education isn't really keeping up with introducing kids to just how different it's going to look. You know, everything from
Yeah.
career paths to mindset, and that's incredibly important. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, well, you started out, you also have the technology company and AI,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
alone, as professionals,
hmm
we're having a hard time keeping up in,
yeah,
just our, yeah, day-to-day businesses and jobs. I can't imagine as a young mind who's just learning and evolving, being exposed to all of this.
yeah.
Maybe tell us a little bit about your background. You've got your tech company, you're an entrepreneur.
hmm
Like how you started and then what got you into education
Yeah,
and
sure.
into Giant
Yeah,
Leaps.
I think it's an interesting arc in my, but it's my story. Yeah, so I'm an artist. I'm a musician and a painter. I went to school for painting and fine art, and
Oh,
I ended up starting a technology company in college, sort
wow.
of by accident. Programming has always made sense to me. Technology has always made sense to me. But and my first company was a web design company back in '99, give or take. So I really combined a lot of like my interest in art with technology, and then that turned into programming, and then I really started to see how technology solutions were impacting businesses, and my engineering mind really kicked in, and we started to develop software that helped companies scale and automate and really grow. And then what happened was, so I have a 6-year-old daughter. When she was
Hmm.
born, I and my wife is an educator, so we just had amazing conversations about the education space and my perspective, seeing everything through the lens of just how quickly technology was moving and how much it was impacting everything. So we had these great conversations about what the world was going to look like, and I remember asking this question 6 years ago to my wife. I wonder what the world is going to look like when our daughter Scarlett is my age, right?
Hmm.
And that just opened up kind of like a door into really thinking about just how different the world was going to look. And when I started asking, well, how am I going to prepare? How are we going to prepare this little girl for such a different looking world? And
Hmm.
Megan's perspective, my wife's perspective on from the education world, that it's just not doing that. It's just not designed to do that. And that's what led me to start this company, Giant Leaps. That was like the beginnings of it. So yeah, my arc was art, technology, and then education. And for some interesting reason, they all just tie very nicely in together. Um, yeah, I see this kind of culmination of a mission into what I'm
Yeah.
doing now, and it feels really
Yeah.
aligned.
I get the vibe that you are a musician though, For some
Yeah.
reason, you give that vibe.
Thanks. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate that.
You should, yeah. So, do you still play instruments? I
Yeah,
see you
you
got a
can't see it
guitar.
right now, but there's six guitars in this room, right? Yeah, absolutely,
That's
I do. Yeah,
awesome.
there's a guitar in every room in my house. I still
Really,
play, and I paint.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, and you paint.
I still
Well,
paint. Yeah,
okay. Wow, so many talents. I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so I think that makes sense where you're going as a parent.
Mhm.
I don't personally have children myself, but I see my nieces and nephews and what they're being exposed to.
Mm.
Um, so tell us a little bit more about Giant Leaps. What's Giant Leaps doing that's different?
Yeah,
That's
what's it doing that's
yeah.
different? Here I can tell you a lot of things about Giant Leaps, but I want to share this idea. Um, a lot of the chatter that kids get these days is really, really negative around where the world is going. There's this
Hmm.
concept called declinism and that means that people think that the world is getting worse or that things are getting worse than they were before. It's
Hmm.
like objectively not true at all. We live in the most abundant times in the world.
Yeah.
People are living longer, healthier. There's more access to
Yes.
water and it's just not true. But
Yeah.
the news
I
cycle reinforces these negative beliefs and things. And what we really want to combat in a meaningful way is so kids are getting this message that robots are going to be taking their jobs, that AI is going to be taking their jobs, because that's what teachers are telling them and that's what their parents are telling them. And
yeah.
what we want to do is change their mindset into thinking, very truly thinking that there are going to be challenges in the future, but there are unlimited opportunities for them to combine their passions and their interests with their careers and their life choices. So
Yeah.
that's on some very real level. One of our massive goals is to give kids this sort of curiosity and leaning into the future picture, and not like a fear of it that they're getting a lot of messaging around. But what
Yeah.
we do differently is we have kids explore their interests. We want them really to understand their strengths and their interests and know themselves very well. We want them to be engaged in the conversation about where the world is going in a
Hmm.
positive way. And we want to teach them real critical thinking skills. So we don't need better test takers. We need better problem solvers. And problem solving and creative thinking is really what we teach in the program. And we do it through the lens of these disruptive technologies that are curious and interesting. And we use that curiosity to pull a kid through these lessons and these modules. And
Got
we do it
it.
through one-on-one coaching and a completely personalized curriculum for each student.
Really,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Maybe just could you describe like what it looks like for a student? Like, do
yeah,
they how does the one-on-one coaching work? Like, what is a day in
yeah.
a life of a
Yeah,
student?
so it starts with a number of assessments. So the student starts with a strengths assessment, an interest assessment, and a cognitive assessment called the mind print, which is a super fascinating conversation in
Hmm.
its own. And we use those assessments to personalize the curriculum for them and to match them with the right coach. And every week they meet with their coach who helps walk them through their curriculum, their activities for the week. And what the 8-week module is designed to do is to have them explore a topic, a prompt. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So imagine, so let's talk about, I don't know, Reb, if I were to ask you, how interested in regenerative medicine are you? 1 to 10. Honest answer.
Probably
Honest
an
answer.
8 as I
Oh,
get
really?
older.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair.
because I'm getting
Fair.
old.
Okay.
As a kid, probably not, but
Yeah, fair. Absolutely fair. Not every, let's say you were a 4, just
okay.
as an
Sorry, I'm
example.
a
And no,
4.
no, no, you're fine. Because most people don't even know what that is necessarily. But let me rephrase the question. What if I were to say, Reb, imagine a world where we could pause or reverse human aging?
I'm
And
in.
yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. You did exactly what I was like hoping for. You leaned into the screen a little bit, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what we want these kids to do. We take a topic that they might not understand but I'll tell you that regenerative medicine, there are billions of dollars going into that space right now.
Yeah.
as are going into AI and autonomous driving and all of these different disruptive technologies, right? So what we
Mm-hmm.
do is we take a topic and we frame it in a way that gets a kid to be really curious, right? And when you think about that, imagine a world where we could pause aging and what the challenges in that world could be. Imagine if Putin could live to 1,000, or if your favorite musician or artist could live to 1,000.
Yeah.
So we have a kid explore these sort of near future scenarios, and we ask them to identify opportunities in those scenarios, given that they know their strengths and they know their interests. And we teach them lessons along the way on how to find information, how to discriminate between good and bad information, and how to use that
Mm-hmm.
information to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what the arc of the program is. We explore the future through this technological lens, through a really curious technological lens, and have them paint a picture of themselves as a leader in this future. And it culminates in some
Wow.
sort of impact project or a presentation, and they interact with their peers along the way. They interact with their family. Every week they're bringing a topic home to discuss with their parents. A blue sky topic that
Oh,
isn't about school
right.
or that isn't about logistics, or it's an interesting conversation piece to have with your
Yeah.
family. They learn about themselves. They learn about where the world is going. They identify potential career options. We're doing everything different, Reb, than what school is doing. And it shouldn't
Yeah.
feel like school at all.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And how are the schools responding to a program
Yeah.
like yours? Are they accepting or are they
They
kind of
are
just
very accepting. Yeah.
good?
They really are. They recognize that what we're doing is what kids need, is what the students need, and they are not equipped. At the end of the day, educators, they get into this not for the money, obviously. They get into it for the mission, right?
Yeah.
So they're really aligned. Like our mission is dead on aligned with every educator's mission. We're just doing it differently. And the challenge of the education system is there's a lot of misaligned motives and objectives top down, not in the
Mm-hmm.
trenches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So schools and educators are very much aligned. They love what we're doing, and we're additive to them. We're solving problems that they're just not equipped to solve because we can move very quickly and they cannot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is great. I mean, I'm even like, we should have an adult version of this. I feel,
Everybody says that, and I am creating that as well. By the way, yeah, I love that you said that too.
Yeah, hey, that might be the 2.0, giant
That's right.
leaps for adults.
Well, I'll
You know,
mention something if I can. That because of the work that we're doing, and how embedded we are in like the current conversation about AI and technology, we are creating a lot of content for parents. Like a lot of adults really don't understand just how quickly this train is moving right now.
mhm,
They've heard of Chat GPT. You probably certainly have heard of it, and like in
yeah,
your
of
space,
course.
right? But
Yeah.
it's pretty. I would say it's a pretty rare thing that people really understand the impact of these large language models and AI, and how it's really democratizing information and the power of it. So we're creating a lot of content for parents, and beginning to launch some courses and some content for them to understand it. Also for them to be able to have conversations with their kids about it, not just for
Yeah.
them to learn, right? It's
Yeah.
it's, it's important.
No, I think that's good. And you'd mentioned earlier about this negative, push by the media. Just
Hmm.
the world is ending, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny. I was at an event yesterday morning. A group of peers, we get together, and
Mhm.
somebody randomly is like, "Yeah, AI is going to take all of our jobs," and he was serious.
Yeah.
And it was like just kind of an off comment. I didn't get into the conversation, but it is this weird, negativity that we are
Hmm.
feeding ourselves. So
That's
I
right.
love that you're doing this also on the adult
Yeah,
level.
absolutely. Thank you. And if you don't think that message bubbles down to kids, then that's a mistake. That's a mistake.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
hear it. Absolutely
yeah.
hear it. And
And
it
I
does them
love
no
that.
service.
Yeah, and I love that you have the kids going home and talking to parents
Yeah.
because then parents are learning and hopefully it's opening their eyes too and they're
Yeah.
seeing the possibilities that their children have and that
Yeah.
they have too.
Absolutely.
Just
It's a
because I'm older
powerful
doesn't
part.
mean
It's a
Yeah.
powerful part of the program, and it's something that I didn't expect, that I wasn't sure exactly how impactful it was going to be. But when you think about this, that if you reflect back to your teen years, perhaps, or just say that most teens find find it hard to find common ground with their parents in conversation that isn't about something like, we call them non-charged conversations. So a conversation about your grades is a charged conversation. Like, it kind of like,
Uh-huh.
and you pull back from that, as a kid.
Right.
Conversation about logistics, about, relationships, things that just teens just don't want to interact with their parents about right now. Their biological imperative is to like push away, but we
Right.
give kids and their parents avenues to connect in these really open, blue sky ways that are creative and curious, like quirky conversations that carry no charge at all. And it's a really beautiful opportunity. Like, one of our parents said after the program was, I saw aspects, I forgot, I don't have the quote in my head, but I saw aspects of my daughter, or aspects of her maturity, that I didn't realize were there before. I was like, that is amazing. That's such
Huh.
a beautiful thing. And the
Wow.
daughter,
Yeah.
on her side of the her testimonial, was something along the lines of, I loved going to my dad every week and asking him these weird questions and just getting into conversations with him. Like, that's such a beautiful thing, to allow like parents and their kids to connect and get past
Yeah.
like what'd you learn at school today? That
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation.
Ah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Maybe a little bit for my audience, talk
Yeah.
about like what were the steps that you took to start Giant Leaps? Like how
Yeah.
did you come up with the name and then how do you promote it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the name, and we need a giant leap between where education is right now and what it needs to be. And that's the genesis of the name at the end of the
Makes
day.
sense.
Yeah. And how we started it. So I had this idea for what I really designed it from first principles. Like, if we were to sketch out an education program and design it with no baggage at all, like, what would be the most effective program to solve the problems that are identified in the space right now? And this is what we designed, right? So we designed it, and the first kind of steps we took were running pilot programs, creating a couple of like modules and curriculums, and recruiting parents and kids to get on board and just test it out with them. And we ran pilot
Hmm.
programs with dozens and dozens of kids, and the results were spectacular. They were spectacular. The kids like went through the program and were transformed by the end of the program. They had
Wow.
better relationships with their parents. 84% of the, I think it's that number. 84% of the kids who went through the program self-reported lower anxiety after the program than before they started. And anxiety is a
Wow.
massive issue right now. And kids who are
Yeah.
anxious are not learning. So
Yeah.
if we remove that obstacle, that's a win, like right there. It's a huge win. Asking better questions in school, like the results were really astounding. And when we saw that, I thought, well, we have something. We have something here that we really have to run with.
Yeah. Awesome. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. I'm gonna tell all my nieces and nephews. I'm gonna tell their parents about the
absolutely.
program,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's it's yeah, amazing. And I love that you musician, technology, entrepreneur to education. But it makes sense, and sounds like you're the right guy to be doing all of
Oh,
this.
I
So
appreciate it. It
kudos to
feels
you.
it feels very
Cool.
aligned. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, how does somebody learn about Giant Leaps? What's the best way for them to get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. Giantleapslearning.com is your best bet,
Perfect.
or YouTube. If you go to YouTube and
Oh,
giantleapslearning.com, and there we've got a bunch of videos. They do a real
oh,
good job explaining what the program is. There's a lot to the program. There's a lot of components to it, and it's hard to say it is this one thing. It's a lot of
right.
things. So yeah, giantleapslearning.com, or YouTube, and type us in.
Awesome, awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you so much, Michael. I really appreciate your
absolutely.
time. This was great. I think this so much. I agree with you, and I'm gonna go check it out and and see, watch some videos too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me on, Reb. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.